Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, the abridged code of Jewish law. We are learning chapter 22, and we're up to number 8, Sif Ches, number 8. So, as we have just begun this second month of Adar, well, it's half, but it's half first month, half second month. That's Rosh Chodesh, and we're really now getting with 2 weeks to Purim. 2 weeks from today's Purim, we're really getting in the mood. So, Hashgacha Pratis, Divine Providence, we are going to mention Purim in this first sif that we learned. So we're speaking about Tachnun. Now, Tachnun, prayers that we say to regret the past and want to improve the future. Now, as we said, it doesn't mean necessarily anything was wrong in the past, but things weren't as good as they could have been. And also, even if they were as good as they could have been then, but now that I've grown, I've learned more, I can do better. So it's a combination of ruining the missed opportunities of the past and a desire to accomplish far more in the future. So that's what Tachnun is. Now, we leave our Tachnun on happy days or happy occasions. So we finished off the last halacha. We mentioned that if a chosin, the bridegroom, is in the minyan, so we skip the Tachnun, because although it's very important to focus on the past and to improve and to change, but focusing on the mistakes of the past can make us feel a little sad, missed opportunities. And so it doesn't go together with happy days. So we're going to mention this happy days. Just one other thing, talking about missing lost opportunities. I think we did mention this once before. But often you hear people make comments, 30 years ago, I could have bought this whole building for $3.50, and now it's worth 60 billion. And I exaggerate slightly, but people often look back and they look at their missed opportunities and they feel, how my life could have been different. If I was just 1 minute though, just to say, but you rarely hear people say, 20 years ago, I could have done this mitzvah. I could have done chesed for this guy. You know what it would be today if I did that? And that's what Tachnun is. A person shouldn't do that all the time. Shouldn't be thinking the whole time, because that becomes depressing. The trick of the Yetzer Hara to only focus on the negative. But there needs to be a few moments each day. And that's the Tachnun. You look back, what could have been. It doesn't mean it was something wrong, but it was an opportunity that perhaps wasn't utilized well as it could have, and how we can make it different. Sorry, David. Yeah.
I was going to ask if the reason that you don't say Tachnun when the groom is there, it seems like it could be for two reasons. Number one is everybody's happy because he's happy after his wedding. Or the other possibility that just dawned on me is that he has all his sins removed because he's a chassid, because he's a bridegroom. And therefore everybody's happy for that reason rather than the first reason.
Yeah, well, it's gonna say he got all these his mistakes taken care of, but it didn't work for the rest of us. At our wedding, but not his wedding. But
the same way that they're happy
the joy
because
of the
it's
wedding.
his wedding, right? And so this way, they're happy because of the joy of his having his sins removed, and they're happy that
is also something to be joyous about. It's all inclusive. That's one aspect of the wedding.
It's like two divine souls against one animal soul. So their divine soul is happy because you benefited, and therefore, if they're happy because you benefited, that also is a benefit to them.
Nice idea. So test number 8. Ein Omrim Tachnun. We don't say Tachnun the following days. Lo Rosh Chodesh, not on Rosh Chodesh. So today was Rosh Chodesh, and so we didn't say Tachnun. We skipped it. Rosh Chodesh, the first day of the Jewish month. It's we'll call it a semi-holiday. Not on Tu B'Av. That's a joyous day. 15th day of the Jewish month of Av. Or Tu B'Shvat. Right? It's also a happy day. The New Year trees. Lo b'Chanukah, we don't say Tachnon on Chanukah. Chanukah is very joyous. Lo b'Purim Gadol Shnei Yomim, not on Purim, the real Purim, the actual Purim when there's two Adars, both days, the Purim and Shushan Purim. Lo Purim Cotton Shnei Yomim. Not only that, but even like this year when we have a Jewish leap year, an extra month of Adar, we don't say Tachnon on the days that would have been Purim if it was the actual Adar. Lo Lag ba'Omer, not on the 33rd day of the Omer. Lo b'chol chodesh Nisan, nor for the entire month, the Jewish month of Nisan. All right, so don't explain it here, but in the chapter that deals with the laws of Nisan and Pesach, it's because we have the first 12 days is that's when the Mishkan was completed. Well, I shouldn't really say completed, it was completed earlier than that, but when it was inaugurated, was set up, the heads of each tribe brought an offering, 12 days. So 12 tribes, 12 days, one per day. And the day of the offering of that tribe is a yontif for that tribe. And today we don't know what tribe we come from, so it's all the days. Then we have Pesach, the 14th, we bring the Korban Pesach. We have then the days of Pesach. And then by the time Pesach's finished, the majority of the month, we didn't say Tachnon. And once the majority of a month is joyous, it's the majority, so it's the whole month. So we don't say Tachnon throughout the entire month of Nisan. But Tisha B'Av, not on Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av seems counterintuitive. You know, Tisha B'Av we normally say is the saddest day in Jewish history. But to give a bit of a parable, it's like when a person has a very serious and painful surgery, but to correct something to help them in the long run. So during the surgery, it's terrible. During the recovery, it's very painful. But at a certain point later, the person is so happy they had the surgery on that day. They celebrate every year on that day. That was my life-changing or life-saving surgery. So Tisha B'Av, all the tragedies. Ultimately, there's something positive that's coming out of that. Going into exile gives us opportunities that we wouldn't have otherwise. I'm going to give extreme examples of what I mean, but they say when you talk about people who smuggled in tefillin to concentration camps, and they secretly lined up and quickly put on tefillin for 2 minutes, and they risked their lives. No one wants to have to be in that situation. But when you think about the spiritual growth, the incredible accomplishment of someone who does that, it's actually so incredible. And being that our true existence is in the spiritual world, that's our soul's home. And this world is, so to speak, like a business trip that we come here to be able to do mitzvahs and Torah to accomplish something. Sometimes, often, the greatest accomplishments are under the most difficult and terrible situations. So although Tisha B'Av is a day of tragedy, but in a certain respect, it's a day of joy. And when Mashiach comes and we see what we've accomplished through these difficult situations, we'll appreciate the joy more than the sadness. We also don't say Tachnon on the days between Yom Kippur and Sukkot. And from the beginning of the month of Sivan until the day after Shavuos. Right? Some people have the custom to even go to the 12th. Right? Some people actually even the 13th. The Sukkot, not the day after Sukkot. And all these days that we don't say Tachnon, they're such joyous days. Even in the afternoon service the day before, that it's because it's getting close. We're already in the mood, or we don't say Tachnun either. Avol be'erev Rosh Hashanah ve'erev Yom Kippurim, but on erev Rosh Hashanah and erev Yom Kippur, yes, they're Yom Tovim and they're joyous, but they're very solemn days as well. So then we do say Tachnun at the mincha prior to them because we're trying to really improve ourselves before the days enter. And Rosh Hashanah, we also say slichus. But afterwards, we don't. Some people do, but we don't. Okay. Number 9. Tess. So every morning after the Shemona Esrei, after the Midah, we say this Tachnun. B'Sheni v'Chamishi, on Mondays and Thursdays. Since these are days of divine favor, right? They're special days because we read the Torah. It's the days of gathering. The Jews come in, and what makes them specifically special? That's even more special is key because on the 40 days when Moshe went up the third time on Mount Sinai to get the second set of tablets. So what happened? Moshe Rabbeinu the Yom Chamishi, he went up on a Thursday. Yored B'Sheni, he came down on a Monday. So we see these 2 days are connected with connecting to Hashem and repairing the mistakes of our past, even more than other days of the week. Okay, and therefore, Marbe Mehem Tachnun, we say extra Tachnun. Before the Tachnun say Hurachim, that's actually Nusach Ashkenaz, Nusach Ari, the Siddim, it's the other way around, but the order of what your custom is not the main thing, and the main thing is that we do it. And we say these extra parts standing up. We need to say them with the kavanah, with feeling, with meaning it, and to take your time and do it properly. Unfortunately, what happens in many shuls is because it's longer and people have to go to work or whatever it is, so people often say it quicker. So not only did they didn't spend more time on it, they went speed reading. But what can you do? And any day, due to its joy or there being a bris or a marriage or something, whatever it is, any day that you wouldn't say Tachnun, you don't say this extra piece either. Yud, number 10. After Tachnun, Omrim Chatzi Kaddish. Now, after Tachnun, we say the half Kaddish, because as we said before, whenever there's an end of a section, we say Kaddish. The Sheni, the Chamishi, Omrim Kel Erech Chapayim moment. And on Mondays and Thursdays, after the Kaddish, we add an extra piece of Kel Erech Chapayim, and it's a part of leading up to taking the Torah out. Mondays and Thursdays, we also read the Torah. So, although Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses instituted we should read the Torah on Shabbos, but Ezra Sefer, he was the leader of the Jewish people for the second, when they came back to Israel, the second time they rebuilt the Beis Hamikdash. He instituted Monday and Thursday, and also Shabbos afternoon. But the idea of Monday and Thursday is that you never have 3 days without a Torah reading, right? Because you have Sunday without, then Monday you read. Tuesday, Wednesday without, Thursday you read. Friday without, Shabbos you read. So it never gets to the point where 3 days go by without being able to read the Torah. So finishing on from last week, that is the Tachnun. We'll just leave another thought about it. Human nature is we like to do the least that we can, that we have to. Right? That's human nature. It's, if you don't have to do something, why go to the effort? And that's human nature. So sometimes there are days there's no tachlin, particularly if it's Monday or Thursday, there's no tachlin. People are like, yes, no tachlin. They get all excited. Now, I hear, but it shouldn't be that way. Tachlin should be viewed as something precious and valuable. It's something that we can use to change ourselves, become better people, and we should appreciate it. It should never be that we're full of joy because there's no tachlin. It should only ever be days that we are full of joy, therefore there is no tachlin. It's the opposite cause and effect. All right, that finishes that chapter. Any questions? Any questions on the chapter? Okay. So just before we start the next chapter, we'll do a quick advertisement. Okay, so for those who are in Florida, so my daughter goes to school in Florida, and they're having a musical play, and my daughter has the lead role. So for the ladies in the shiur or the wives of the men who are in the shiur, I'm just gonna put the link. And if anyone would like a wonderful evening out, and see that my kids are far more talented than me, then I'm sure it's going to be a wonderful evening.
Rabbi,
Wonderful evening. Yes.
I'm sorry, it's Penina Sarah. I wanted to ask a question. I don't know if this is
Please.
exactly on point, but with regarding the Tahanunim, I heard something that really very much saddened me because, I was a goer to. I'm an animal lover, and I was a goer to, Seaquarium and these other places, and we had this orca, this tremendous killer whale, which is really a very intelligent creature that had, it's a sentient being, and it was trained, and I should say, because she was there for like, I don't know how many years. She was 57 years old, and when they were intending, when she was unable to continue to perform, they were going to send her back to the Pacific Northwest, which in itself is pikuach nefesh sometimes when they transfer these creatures. But the thing is, I'm wondering if there's some kind of, I feel like there was such a terrible sin. She wasn't taken care of, and they found she had kidney failure and interstitial bronchial pneumonia, that they just didn't take care of her. And I feel very wretched that now Miami is evicting this aquarium because of this, but which, they found that the creatures aren't being taken care of. And I'm wondering if there's some kind of, tefillot or something that we're supposed to be saying. I mean, there's so many things going on, and this is something, just another thing. Here's a sentient being that was really, I'm sorry to say, I shouldn't say tortured to death, but she really went through a lot of pain, and she was in a very small enclosure while she lived for so many, many years. It's like solitary confinement.
Yeah.
Susan, I'm sorry, Rabbi. It wasn't just the care of the animal. It was the condition of the aquarium. A lot of problems there.
Yes,
and that is why.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm aware. I read that.
So I think like this. So let's a few issues got raised. So let's we'll quickly address them and move on.
I got one
number
quick question. I'm sorry, Rabbi. I got one quick question. Where is your daughter performing in Florida?
That's a good question. The school is in Hollywood, so I guess they've rented a theater somewhere.
Okay.
I don't think you can go. It's women only.
It's at Michael and Russell JCC, located in North Miami Beach, Northeast 25th Avenue.
So yeah, so
Okay.
it's
Thank you.
for women because it's the the girls are singing and dancing and whatever they do with the musical.
Thank you, Rabbi.
And
When
You
is
can
this going to
send
be?
flowers. You can definitely send roses for the lead
that's
performance.
right. So
When is this going to be?
is it 28th of March? Now you have to open it up.
18 days.
It's
Yeah,
March
28th of March.
28th at
March
7:30 p.m.
Yeah,
March 28th. Okay.
yeah.
It is
And
the
so,
King of L.A.
Yeah. So
An odd Purim story. Sorry, I'm
Yes.
just reading off your
yeah. So my daughter is the king in this thing. She has the lead role. So it'll be should be exciting, Mr. Shem. Okay, and my wife's
Is
going to
that-
go. So
Is LA Los Angeles?
I actually don't know. I don't know. It's all hush hush, They not even letting parents know details of the play. It's going to be a big surprise. But it's she is Achashverosh anyway. Whatever somehow the don't know. All I know is that one of the other girls who was in part in rehearsal, she commented that as Achashverosh, my daughter was scary.
Oh,
She pulled it off. Anyway, whatever. Anyway, we'll see. Well, I won't see, but my wife will give me a report, God willing. So, and those who like to go will be wonderful. Okay, but so we have a mitzvah of Sabah L'chaim, right? Well, we're not allowed to cause animals pain. Allowed to cause animals pain. Non-Jews also not the some of the details differ between a Jew's obligation, non-Jew's obligation, but all humans, no human is allowed to abuse animals. On the other hand, I know this is what we're talking about now, but on the other hand, we have permission to use animals, meaning that we can eat them, right? It's I'm sure pulling a yoke for a plow, we don't really need them anymore. We have tractors, but I'm sure it's not the most comfortable. But as long as it's not injuring them, different things are how to do that. Now, let's say, for example, when it comes to animal testing, if it's something to save a human, so not talking about animal testing for a perfume, let's put on a rabbit and see if it dies from a rash, so we won't get sued, right? That you can't do, but there could be legitimate testing. We want to see if something works and it can save lives. So I have a former student who he's finished his PhD now, but he was doing his PhD on he was assisting, and they were different things with lab rats about cancer, right? The whole point was to try and that's what he does now. The PhD was for Parkinson's, right? So they actually bred rats to have Parkinson's. They gave whatever it was, but they wanted it. But again, it's to save lives. There's clear, specific purpose. It's not being wasted, and so we are permitted if it's actually going to, like many other mitzvahs, a life-threatening situation overrules. So this is something that can potentially save lives. And before we test on humans, we could test on animals. So zoos and aquariums, various things, they're a gray area. Why? Because they're, on the one hand, and again, I'm not talking about this specific place, I'm speaking in general there are animals that are safe from extinction by breeding programs in zoos and aquariums. There are animals that have been injured in the wild, that have lost their pack or various things, will not survive in the wild. And when done properly, the zoos and the aquariums are wonderful things. And yes, they people are charged to come in, so that helps pay for the programs. There's a zoo near us, not the official zoo, not the official city zoo. It's a private. When I say private, I think it's a not-for-profit organization, but it's not the government, not the official zoo. And they have it's a zoo and aquarium sort of mixed together, and it's very, the space and the environment they give to the animals is very very good. So it's very, very good. So then there are places who do not do it well. Now, sometimes it can be ignorance, particularly in the past. There was a lot of ignorance. They, didn't realize you put a lion in a little cage is going to go insane. They just thought keep a lion in a cage so it doesn't kill anyone. It wasn't. So essentially, it's out of ignorance. But often, when it comes to these places, it's to save money and to just smallest expenses while raking in the most money. And that's not an excuse to be able to treat animals poorly or abuse them or to various things. And also, some of the things they used to do in even like in circuses, or it was really quite cruel to the animals. And in many places the laws have changed, and generally speaking, things are better. I'm not saying in every circumstance, but generally speaking, things are a lot better. So when things are as they should be, or at least based on the current knowledge and people doing their best, then there's definitely no responsibility for the people who are paying and going. Now, in this case, again, I don't know anything about it, but when you're asking about the Shuvah Tachnun, I'm presuming you're coming from the point of view that you went, you paid, so you feel that you contributed. At the time, you didn't know the animal was not being treated properly. And now it comes out that the animal was neglected or abused till it died. And you feel a sense of responsibility that you're the ones who used to go, and you paid money towards it. And so in that case, you don't have any responsibility because you didn't know. You weren't complicit. You weren't helping them. If you still feel some moral obligation, then I think it's not prayers per se that are going to change things. I think it's speaking to people. I'll give a different example. There was a person who became religious later in life. They were raised in a family that didn't have Torah mitzvahs. They didn't know so much as an adult. They got more exposure and they started keeping things. And there's many stories very similar to this, but I'm just using someone that I know. And they felt terrible that for however many years of their life, they did not eat kosher. And now, although they're eating kosher now, but they felt like they have to do something to fix it. So they wrote a letter to the Lubavitcher Rebbe. This is in the 80s. And, they essentially asked him to prescribe a tikkun, like a spiritual repair. No expecting they're going to get answer like you have to fast, you have to give tzedakah, that was what or say extra prayers or something. That's what I thought they're going to say. Instead, the response that they got, the Rebbe told them, is that they should teach others about keeping kosher. They should teach others. And the way to make up for them not doing the past is to help others now start to keep kosher. And I've heard similar stories. Just this one happened to another person, so I feel more comfortable saying it. But I've heard similar stories about other mitzvahs also, about Shabbos, about family purity. In other words, if we feel so, these people, they didn't know, they weren't educated, so they're not guilty, but they feel a certain moral obligation to change things. So if one is in a situation where they weren't accomplices, but they feel that they have some type of moral obligation, I think the best thing is to tell others, to help educate others, and let people know that the Torah does say we have to look after the animals. There's a story, one of the Rizal students, right? The Rizal, one of the great Kabbalists, lived in the 1500s, 1400s. Anyway, so the one of his students came to him, and he didn't speak to him, and so he sent a message to other students. What did he do wrong? So he said that he saw on his forehead that he's guilty of Sabal Chaim, of cruelty to animals. He as far as he knew, he didn't do anything. So he went home and discussed with his family, and it came out that they were late in feeding the chickens. They postponed the feeding till later in the day. And so he fixed that up, and the Rizal spoke to him again. So first of all, someone like the Rizal sees this, maybe if it was me, I mean, not that I was around when the Rizal was, I've got bigger faults. Maybe the Rizal would see me anyway because I really need some help. But someone of his students were people very high stature, and they had high expectations. There's high expectations from them. So you see, this is the idea. This is an idea of we have to be careful. There are some people who don't have pets just for that reason. They're worried about responsibility. Yeah, David, you want to say something?
Yeah, it's a little bit related. I for many years I wouldn't kill a bug because I read that the Arizal never killed bugs, and I didn't want to take a life. It's a living creature, and I thought, who am I to kill the bug? And then I read an answer to a halacha question. I don't know which one. It was by one of the Rabbi Opsons, and it was written recently about killing mosquitoes. And he said that it's a disease-carrying animal,
Right.
disease-carrying creature, and it can infect your food, and it can bite you, and it's got all kinds of diseases. And even though in previous times there was an idea of not killing a bug because you're taking a life, at the same time we have to protect our lives. And now he said it's okay to kill a bug. So I was like in the
So
middle, like,
mosquito,
what should I do?
something like that is for sure. But then there are certain things, like this grasshopper comes in the house, and you can just as easily pick it up and throw it into the yard. It's like with anything is balance. It's spiders also. I mean, some spiders are obviously harmless, but I'm not really an expert in spiders. I'm not gonna look. It says on the internet. You look. Does it have this thing on its leg? Well, I'm not gonna put my face right next to it to see if it's got something on its leg. If it looks like it might be the poisonous one, it's getting squashed. But
Well, excuse me, most
yes.
spiders, I think there's only two types of poisonous spiders in this continent. I know there's
Oh
more in
yeah, but you go to
Australia.
Australia, they're all
And in
poisonous.
Australia, I know there's more. I know there's more. But even in Australia, the big ones tend not to be the problematic ones. It's
The big
the
huntsman that they have, and some of them get massive. But even then, even though they're not poisonous, the really big ones, the bite is nasty. It can get
oh yeah,
infected.
yeah,
But
that's
they have
true.
plenty of
It's
plenty of poison. Just use
In
an
my
example. I'm
in
not
my
sure that a person at camp, there's a snake. I'm not sure you have to start, inspecting it. Is it a poisonous snake? But things that are obviously harmless, that's right. Why should we kill something for no reason? Let's move it on. But we do have to take care of ourselves, and like anything, pikuach nefesh, life-threatening situations, overall.
in my hippie days, we started this organization. It was called the Insect Liberation Front. We were joking around, but the point was, I said, like, why should we kill insects? If the insect was a little bit larger, like to say the size of a dog, you wouldn't just step on it and kill it. So, but then there are insects that are more nuisance. I'm not interested in running around the house catching mosquitoes and letting them out of the house. And chances are
No,
they're going to
no
get away
mosquitoes. I mean, as you said, they
unless they're
can
going
be,
to, yeah.
Mosquitoes are
especially,
dangerous.
yeah. All right. So, Siman Chof Gimel, chapter 23. Ksas Dinei Kris Sefer Torah. This is few of the laws of reading the Torah, because we're speaking about going in the order of davening, and on Mondays and Thursdays, or fast days, or Rosh Chodesh, special days. At this point in the davening, this is where we're going to read the Torah. All right, so we start off with the morning blessings. We've said the kabbonis, the order of the offerings were brought in the Beis Mikdash. We've had the verses of praise, the Zimra, then we've had the Shema and its blessings, then the Shema Esrei, the Midah, which is the main part of the davening. Then we've had Tachnun, on the days we say Tachnun, and then reading the Torah. So Aleph, number 1. Shemoitzinis Sefer Torah min Aron Kodesh. When we take the Torah out of the Ark, the Noisen Oisoi El Teva, and we carry it to and from the Ark to the Bima. Shkoin by Sham, to read it there on the Bima. Noisen Oisoi der Sofen Shlimin Noisei. What we do is the Chazan, or the person who's taking the Sefer Torah out, he's now facing the Bima, the reading platform, and he goes to his right, and he brings it. And when we take it back to the Ark, now we go the other way around. Right? And the reason for this, a few reasons. Now, the primary reason is we want to give everyone the opportunity to be able to kiss the Sefer Torah as it comes by. And if we just went the same way, you're going to have a mad rush. Half the shul is going to go to the other side. And so we go around. And in general, also, we have this idea of circuits with the Torah, Kabbalistically. That's a secondary issue. But now, the person carrying the Sefer Torah should hold it in his right hand. Presuming he's right-handed. Now, sometimes you get very heavy Sefer Torah, and you can write as large or as small as you like. Today, I'm not going to say they're not as good quality as the older ones, but today one of the things they do is the cloth, the parchment, they split it, so they make 2 out of the 1, and so it's much thinner. It's much thinner, the parchment. And the old Sefer Torah that used to have the full thickness, so it's double the weight. It's double the weight. So many of the older Sefer Torah, pre-war Sefer Torah, or even till the 60s, 70s, are much heavier than today's Sefer Torah. But even the same size, so even the same thickness of the parchment, you can have bigger ones, you can have smaller ones, all depends on how small you write. So some Sefer Torah are very small and very light, but we still hold it in our stronger arm, and preferably have the other hand on it as well, to show that it's precious, it's valuable. Yeah, Susan.
Rabbi, you said your son was going to be, he was a scribe. Is it always the same one person that transfers, that does the whole Torah? In other words, one person that copies the whole Torah, or is it many people when they're
not necessarily? It usually you get from one person because you're ordering it from him, but not necessarily. Not necessarily. So there was a place in there were several places in Europe. The famous one was because they were cheaters, but let's leave them aside. The not famous one, or not infamous one, let's say, they used to have, because there's 5 books of the Torah, and so they would have 5 people simultaneously writing a book of the Torah, and then they attached it together. And the people wrote faster because they kept writing the same section, or nicer at the same speed, and the Torah was produced quicker, for people. So you could do that. And normally when someone chooses a scribe, they want to pick someone that is knowledgeable in there's 3 ingredients you're looking for, right? You want someone who is knowledgeable in the halachas, is a Yiras Shamayim. We'll loosely call that they're for real. They're actually very genuine spiritual people. It's not just a job, it's a calling. And 3, they want to have a really nice writing. You can often find 2 of the 3. It's harder to find all 3. It's hard to find all three. They've just had scandal's the right word, but just recently they found a fellow who was putting on a pretense of being a very religious person, but in fact was living somewhere in Russia or Ukraine married to a non-Jew, not eating kosher or keeping Shabbos, and was producing Torahs and mezuzahs and Megillas, and he had a nice writing. And when he came into town once in a while, he put on a good show, and people, they were like sought after. It took quite a few years. He's been producing. So it's but anyway, so normally when people find someone that
So Rabbi, what happens when something like that happens? All the writing that he did, is it all negated because he was not what he said he was?
Well, some could be. And then the other issue is, even if it's not, that's if everything else is good. But if you see that the guy was a charlatan, you don't know what else he did or didn't do.
Oh.
So what's happened is they said that people should go to the store, the wholesaler, or whoever they got it from, and get a refund, essentially. And then that person has to try and chase the other guy in court, or however.
Rabbi, what were the three things?
You want that they should be an expert in the halachas.
Oh, okay.
They should be Yerushalayim, should be really for real, and they should have the writing should actually be a beautiful writing. That's the three things you want to look for. I learned Safras. I started, passed the test on the theory part. The practice, I never really had the hands for it. So I always joke, I never learned to write a mezuzah, but I can sure buy one now. Know how to tell a good one.
It was my bar mitzvah parsha, Nitzavim Vayelech. So my father had me do my pshetel on Ksiva Sefer Torah and start laning regularly. After I found 3 mistakes, the Cheshire Rebbe didn't let me lane anymore.
People would say
for those where the mitzvah writer Sefer Torah is in that passion.
People would ask me, if somebody asks you, can you check my mezuzah? I can tell you if it's not kosher, but I can't tell you if it's kosher.
Right.
Like I can tell you if I see mistakes, but other than that, I can't tell you if it's good.
The checking, by the way, is a whole different skill. Many people are a cipher, can't check, or they're not good at checking. It's a whole separate. So my 2 sons who are ciphering, so my younger one, not the one in Florida, the younger one, he writes beautifully. Checking is not his thing. My older son also writes well, but his checking, he's unbelievable.
It's a bracha. I mean, to me, when something's wrong on the page, it's just jarring. They used to bring me briefs at the law firm. They used to bring me briefs before they filed them to quickly look them over to make sure they were right.
Yeah, it's how your mind works. Often when I look at something, let's say mezuzah, it's the Shema. You know it so well. That if there was a miss in your mind, you're seeing what it should say. Often that's how people are. That's the way some people's minds work. Some people they can look at a page and they just see things, that are out of place. It's different minds work differently, so that's part of it. But also it's a different training. It's a whole different training. Yes, you have to know how the letters are formed.
Check by looking upside down. He used to look at it upside down and do it that way.
That way he's not seeing off by heart. That could work. But you have you obviously have to know how to write to be able to check, and you have to know how the letters are formed. But to be able to check, so in Israel, for example, not everything the Rabbanut does is necessarily because that's the best way to do it. Sometimes just because of red tape, because it's so semi-socialist country. But the Rabbanut has separate certification for a sofer to write and for a sofer to check. And for the checking, it's a year course. And you have to be a sofer before you do the course, right, to get certification.
They don't check with computers and scanners now?
Well, also, but it doesn't help everything, because the computer can't do what a human can do.
Right.
A computer can count the letters. You can tell if there's a letter missing. It can tell you perhaps if there's a letter attached, or if it's grossly the wrong letter. But there's so many things that a person can see, can pick up that there's a gap. Perhaps if a letter is two parts, it's not quite joined properly. There's so many things a human can. You need a judgment.
Same problem with word when you word check. When you
Yes.
spell check something, it could be the word and it should be an. It's the same problem.
Yep, that's
Same
right.
problem.
And so computer checking is a good thing to do as an extra. But you can't have that. And just the last thing on this, on the Sefer Torah, is we asked about the same person. So we have we have a minion from time to time. We have a Sefer Torah that it was there was a fire. There was a fire somewhere, and there was water damage from putting out the fire. And I guess they got a new one from insurance, and insurance sold it off to a wholesaler. Now, 2/3 of the Torah is in excellent condition. Was in excellent condition. The last third, some of it is the cloth is like a little bit, the parchment is a little bit damaged, but still good. And part of it had to be replaced. So my son Shlomo, who spoke to you, who lives in Florida, he saw it. Of course, when they're advertising it, they only showed the really good parts, but but he wrote, he replaced the part that needed to be replaced, and he put it all together. And so we have the Sefer Torah, so it's from two scribes, right? The original one and the replaced part. And that's not uncommon with old. I mean, it's not old. It's not like 100 years old or something. It was probably written in the 60s. But it's it's when I say I mean not new ones, I'm talking about restored ones for whatever reason. So it's quite common. Okay. So we take it out and we hold in our right side. We want it with the right arm, a stronger arm. Again, if someone's left hand is different. And although it doesn't say it here, most people are accustomed to even put their other hand on it as well. Although sometimes you're holding the siddur, so it's not practical. But in other words, to show, even if it's a very small one, to show that it's important and you have the respect for it. Mitzvah called Adam shesefer Torah over the fanov. And it's a mitzvah of each person in the shul. Now, I'll limit this in a moment, but we're talking about in the ideal world, in concept and theory, that if the Torah goes past you, shilva oisa ad elateva, you should follow it along to the bima. As it comes to you, you shouldn't just hello as it waves past. You should accompany it something important. In practice, though. Often shuls, I mean, if after shul then started following the Sefer Torah to the bima, it's no one's gonna be able to move. It's not practical. So this is why I say this house should be ideally, and whether you do it in practice depends on the size of your minyan, the size of your place, how easy so the places that have pews, it's very hard to get out, especially in the pews and the seats move up. Ones have tables and chairs, it's much easier. So I think it really just look at the practicality. If practical and plausible, then that's what a person should do to show the respect.
Rabbi?
If it's not practical, you don't have to turn the whole shlos. Yes.
Yes, when the Sefer Torah is taken out of the Aron Kodesh, I wanted to find out what they sometimes, there's so many Sefer Torahs sometimes that are there, and they have to pick out the one that they want to take. What is the purpose of that? You know, the
What's
rabbi
the purpose
decided
of having so many?
why is it that they can't take any one of them? Why they have
Well,
to
no,
pick out?
because normally it depends where it's up to. You don't want to pull one out, and let's say you had one that you keep at Rosh Chodesh reading, and then you have another one that you're reading each week. And so let's say you're in the beginning of the Torah, and the Rosh Chodesh is like 3/4 through the Torah. So if you're going to take out the Rosh Chodesh one by mistake, everyone's going to have to wait around while you roll for 10 minutes.
I see.
So generally speaking, that's why you choose a certain one. Now, what's the wisdom in having so many Sifrei Torah? Some shuls just have.
Who
It
keeps
usually
track
means
of all
people
that,
with.
Rabbi? Who keeps track of
Sorry.
who keeps track of which one to pull out? I mean,
Well, normally
I
you have
wonder-
someone. Normally it's the Gabbai. The Gabbai mean they
Okay.
often call it what the sexton or something, but there's normally someone in the shul who, whether it's a paid or voluntary, or sometimes the rabbi, depends on the size of the shul or the level of knowledge of the congregants. But someone has to be someone does have to be on top of it. But often shuls have way too many Sifrei Torah that will ever be used, and usually that means there's people with more money than sense, more dollars than cents, because there are many small congregations who don't. You really need at least 3 Sifrei Torah to be functional, because our time is take out 3. And so 3 can easily be 5, because you might have more than 1 minyan, you might have something else. In a place that really has several minyanim, maybe you have a school and a high school. Places may regularly use 10 or 20 Sifrei Torah. It's possible. But many shuls, they're only ever going to use 3, and there's 20 in the ark. And while the places only have 1, and they could really have, if they had 3 to be functional those days, it'd be so nice. Often I'm not trying to be critical, God forbid, but you very often have people who have the means to donate, often daven in the same place or same places, and they all keep giving. And sometimes it's really out of sincerity, and sometimes it's to show I can have a more silverware on my Torah and make a bigger party, the completion of the Torah, than someone else did. And so you end up having these rich congregations that actually could have just bought the Sefer Torah out of their dues and donations, and they're getting donated, and the smaller or less affluent places that are really struggling and the Torah is aging, and end up with nothing. So it's anyway, we're not bemoaning the world's problems, but just when you ask about having so many in the ark, what do you know? I mean, sometimes the real answer to so many in the ark is share. You don't have to give it away to a non-congregation, but you can lend. You make sure they have the proper insurance. You make sure, whatever it is. But really, I think the best way is to share. That's really how you know which one to use. Lucky I'm not opinionated, huh? All right. Base number 2. The person who gets called up. He should put on a talis. Now, there's different customs. People only start wearing talis when they get married. Do they put on a talis when they got called up, or when it's a fast day, it's the afternoon or Shabbos afternoon? But generally speaking, in the morning service, at least, people put on the talis. When we make our minyan, although I have my custom, we generally don't say, if it's a time where I might not put on talis, but someone else has a custom, they do, so fine. And vice versa, as long as it's a genuine custom. Today, used to be you lived in a town, you lived in a region, and everyone's from the same region. We didn't travel the world like we do today. didn't have a mix of Ashkenazi and Sephardim and Hasidim all in the one area. It wasn't like that. People were in their place, and therefore you should do the custom of this congregation that's already been. Today we have people from all over the world, and in the same minyan you can have different things. My opinion is that we shouldn't make an issue out of it. Puts on a talis, doesn't put on a talis. It's some people. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's my thought. But in concept, and when he goes to the bima, he goes to where they read the Torah, he should take the shortest way there. But when he leaves, you go the other side and go the longest route. Again, the way some shuls are set up, the bima is right next to the mechitza, and you can only go in and out one way. But normally, when it's smack bang in the middle of the room, you go the shorter way and you leave the longer way, because this shows that you feel going there is important and you're hesitant to leave. The im shnei drachim shavim. Now, if it's equal, you sit level with the middle of the bima. That's your seat. So whether you go this way, that way, it's the same distance. Then you should go up the right side, because right is generally considered important, and then go down the other way. Go through the left. And the custom, it's not an absolute obligation, but it's pretty much universal custom, is that after I get called up, I don't leave right away. You stay there until after the next person that gets called up has finished. And again, this shows that you're not like, I've done my bit, I'm out of here. It shows that it's important to you, so you linger. It's a lot of this may seem symbolic and not really, because the person stays there because that's what everyone does, not because he really feels that way, or you might not even know why you stayed there, another call up. But a lot of it is about even for whatever reason, I'm not feeling an incredible awe or love to the Torah that's being read. At least you can make it look like you do. It's a Jewish concept that really we should feel a love to Hashem. Now, sometimes we don't. So we should at least want to feel it. And let's be honest with ourselves, sometimes we don't even want. So we should want to feel that. So sometimes by doing things, it brings out the feeling, because we realize we're doing something important, so I'm standing here. But even if we're not yet wanting, at least by doing the right thing, it will bring out something in us. All right. Any other questions?
Rabbi?
We ran out of time.
Rabbi?
Yeah.
I want to backtrack
Yes.
to the Tachanun. When we in Shachrit, we we after Tachanun, when we go Hashem El Rachum, after we finish, then we sit down and we cover our eyes, we cover our face. Okay, what I want to find out is when we put our arm on our face, is it different during Shachrit than it is on Mincha? I'm just curious.
Yes. So what happened? So we cover this. So what we said is that in concept it should be our left hand, but those of us who are right-handed and have the tefillin on left hand, it's not respectful to lean ahead on the tefillin straps.
Oh.
So therefore we use the right hand. So if you're left-handed, so you put tefillin on the other arm. So Shachris and Mincha you do the left. But if you're right-handed, so Shachris in the morning service you'll lean on the right because you don't want to lean on the tefillin, and at Mincha you lean on the left.
I see.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Rabbi.
It's more humbling to be on lean on the left.
I see.
So that's the idea behind it.
Thank you.
All right. So wish everyone a wonderful week.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you,
Thank
Rabbi.
you very much.
Take care.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Hey,
Bye, Susan.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Good day, good week. Shabbos.